everyone, welcome to Tales from the Casino Pit. This is a podcast about stories in the casino industry. And now, here are your hosts, Jay, John, and Mike.
Well, hello. Welcome. Welcome everybody to a special episode of Tales from the Casino Pit, our podcast. My name is Jay, and you can find me on social media at Casino Dealer Jay. And welcome to everybody watching on my Facebook Live. Welcome to everybody from the Casino Industry Canada group. And of course, welcome everyone from the Casino Dealer Jay YouTube channel. So thanks for subscribing. You are good looking. So, all right. So, let's see here. This is an April special episode. We usually don't do this on a Sunday, but I have a special guest, and it's awesome. I really wanted to give you guys a treat. We wanted to talk about the casino industry and all of the different jobs that the industry has provided. Myself included, I got to work all these different positions, and I like to always see all of the different worlds that are kind of incorporated into the casino. So my only guest, I would love to introduce Kelly. Hello.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
So everyone, Kelly is someone very special. She was working in the, I want to say casino industry, but she's a very talented performer. And Kelly, if you could kind of introduce yourself and let everyone know your casino, well, not casino journey, but like your whole journey in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, it was mostly in casinos. That's accurate. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly O. I lived and worked in Las Vegas for 11 years as a professional dancer, showgirl, doing all the gigs, all the dancing for a long time. I worked in several shows, pretty much every single casino. And I had an amazing, awesome career there. Basically for me, I knew that my husband and I were leaving, and also, you can't do what I did forever. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. And then my husband and I moved away. So I'm not in Vegas anymore. And I don't know if I'll ever go back to performing again, but I did have an amazing career while it lasted, and it was all in Vegas for the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So how did you get started? Like, before going to Vegas, before you're doing all of like the dancing and all of the gigs, what got you started into and what kind of interest, what kind of gave you that interest to actually go and pursue that kind of career?
It's a funny story. I trained as a ballet dancer exclusively, so I didn't really know anything about the Vegas dance scene. I was working at a ballet company in Nebraska in my early 20s, and my girlfriend opened her locker, and there's a picture of a fabulous showgirl on the inside of the locker. She had these giant eyelashes and these rhinestones, and I said to my friend, "Who is that?" And she said, "Oh, that's my best friend. She's in a show in Vegas. She's a showgirl." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, she used to be a ballet dancer like us, or she still was a ballet dancer, but she does this for money." And I was like, "What? That's amazing. That sounds so cool." So it was always in the back of my mind. And I found out more about that show. That show was Jubilee at Bally's. I ran for almost 35 years. It closed in 2016. And people were telling me, yeah, they like tall ballet dancers. It's 5'8" and taller. I'm 5'9". And there's not a lot of work in the ballet world. And the work that you find, it really doesn't pay very well. So I was a struggling ballet dancer. I had this in the back of my mind about this show in Vegas that like tall ballet dancers. And I happened to be living in Brooklyn, and I saw that they were coming to audition. So I just made myself go to that audition, even though I had never danced in heels before. I had no idea what Vegas showgirls did. I was completely clueless, but somehow some amazing miracle happened and I got the job. And I had been working in a ballet company, so I just dropped everything and moved to Las Vegas, and it was a 6-month contract. And I thought, well, I don't know what I'm getting into, but it's only 6 months and I'll get health insurance and I'll make some money and I'll see what happens from there. But I absolutely fell in love with it. I stayed at that show for 3.5 years, basically doing the exact same show 6 days a week for 3.5 years. And then from that show, I went on to Jerry Mitchell's Peep Show, which used to be at Planet Hollywood. For any diehard Vegas fans, that was like a really popular show back in the day. And then I did a bunch of shows after that. Yeah, so it wasn't ever really a part of my plan, but it ended up being the perfect fit for me because I wasn't a very good ballet dancer, and Vegas was just the perfect fit, like for the style of dance that I'm good at and everything else.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, like, I think that's a great accomplishment, and like Jubilee. Can you kind of give us a little more information for the people that never got to watch Jubilee? It was more of a traditional type of show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jubilee, it's so sad that it closed. It was such a special, special thing. So there was this producer back in the day, his name was Don Arden, and he created these elaborate sort of Folies Bergère style, Moulin Rouge style showgirl, Las Vegas showgirl shows. Some of the other ones were Hallelujah Hollywood and a couple others. And then he got commissioned to do this giant show at what was MGM and what became Bally's. So I think it was one of the biggest shows Vegas had ever seen. It opened in 1981. Bob Mackey, who's an incredibly world-renowned designer, he does like Cher's costumes and stuff. He did the costumes. The sets were out of this world. There was, I think the original cast had over 120 people in it. Yeah, and it's what you think of, like traditional feathers, rhinestones. Yes, topless, some of the girls, but very tastefully done, very statuesque. And in a classical Vegas showroom with, back when it first opened, it had, you know, dinner tables and you'd be served dinner. And I think it was even a 3-hour show when it first opened too. So you can still see little glimpses of it. The show's featured in Rocky IV, the very end when they use the Jubilee stage and you can see the bull in the background. That's all part costumes, showgirls, and sets from the show. Casino, the movie Casino, features a lot of Jubilee backstage costumes. And the former company manager of Jubilee, Flep Laco, she actually has a major part in Casino. She's the old woman that gets shot in the head.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The director, the company manager of Jubilee for many, many years. So if you didn't get to see it, that's kind of a place where you can get a feel for it. But yeah, it was classic Vegas. It was beautiful. And of course, Caesars Entertainment just destroyed it. So.
Oh yeah, the whole corporate
yeah,
companies coming in and just converting it. I totally understand when something like that happens, because I mean, it's just weird, because when I think about Vegas, you know, and I think about like the definition of a showgirl, it's really difficult to kind of say what that is now, right? Because I don't know if you were talking about like a classic showgirl, if they're like, you know, if a corporation is trying to modify what a showgirl is supposed to be. I always think of the traditional, you know, like, and that's kind of history and that's the roots of Vegas. Yeah, I mean, what's your opinion of the definition of a showgirl? Because I'm sure it's like changed.
Such a really good question. And I completely forgot I was going to do a video about that, and I've sort of abandoned my YouTube channel. But what I wanted to do was get a bunch of different showgirls' opinions on the answer to that question, because I don't know if I'm the authority to answer that question. But I can tell you that the definition has definitely changed, because Jubilee was the last showgirl show.
Yeah.
And it closed in 2016, and there is nothing. Before that was Folies Bergère as well at Tropicana, that closed I think in 2009 or something like that. And those were the last two shows. And so now the showgirl really only lives on in legacy. There are some showgirls in the show Vegas, the show, but it's not really the same thing. They don't really represent it the same way. And that's it. And so you see the girls down on Fremont Street or standing out in front of the casinos. Those aren't showgirls. They're you know, nothing bad against them. They're doing their thing. They're just making some money, but they're just random old people that got some costumes and are standing around for photos. They're not actual showgirls.
Yeah.
So what is a showgirl? I think then that the term kind of transitioned into meaning women that do shows in Las Vegas, because shows in Las Vegas are sort of unlike shows in New York or London or Paris. They're kind of its own unique thing, right? So, you know, shows like fantasy, shows like Crazy Girls, ex-burlesque. I think people have kind of decided that those are our new showgirls. Even though they're not wearing the feathers and the headdresses, it's still that kind of Vegas only type of female review show. That's what I think.
Mhm.
You still see your traditional showgirl at a gig or an event, because we do have some of those costumes that some of the production companies are able to utilize, but it's really not like it used to be.
Yeah.
You can, I think the Moulin Rouge and the Lido in Paris, if they ever open again after COVID, would probably be the last place you could see that.
Yeah. No, I don't see them anymore, and that's crazy. And exactly, just to your point, I just have Wyatt coming in here. Wyatt used to be a manager in the casino, so he says, miss those types of shows, and now they just pose for pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they definitely not what I envision. The Vegas showgirl to be, and I completely understand. So with the brand, so like when we're talking about the whole like image, and you're talking about like the all the headwear and the costumes, it's fairly elaborate. And I just wanted to show you sent me some pictures, and I definitely want to share them with everybody. I just want to start with this one just because of the colors and CeeLo green. So that's pretty cool. Could you kind of give us?
I look different. I've had jaw surgery since then, so I look different. But that's me, second from the right.
So cool. I really like these pictures just because of like.
Sorry,
yeah, no problem. So you have a couple photos here, and let's see here. This is from on stage. Is this at the Jubilee? Like
the one on the left was a performance with CeeLo for Jubilee, but we were in Hollywood. And then the one on the right was actually more recently for PBS. They were doing a documentary about showgirls, so we went to the PBS studio in Las Vegas, and
I think I might have lost you there. Okay, so I think we lost Kelly. So Kelly, if you can still hear me, maybe just jump off and log on again. And we can kind of see if we can get you on. Are you there? Okay. So while we wait for Kelly, guys, let's, if you have any questions for Kelly, just make sure you send them over and I can ask them for you. We'll see if we can get her on here. All right. Okay. In the meantime, guys, if you have any other questions, like I said, just bring them up and then I can kind of queue them up for Kelly when we get her back on. So probably some issues with the connectivity where she's at. Okay. While we're on, I just wanted to let everyone know that next Wednesday we will be having an episode, and we're going to bring in Dante, which is he's from Maryland, and he's going to be talking about his time in the casino industry. He's a really funny guy. He does a lot of the comedy for the shows, and he's got his own YouTube channel and Instagram channel. So when we have him on, you guys just make sure you kind of join in because he's kind of hilarious there. So, okay, a couple comments. Hey, yep. Hi, Joey. It's nice to see you over there in the UK. Hopefully you're doing well. We're just waiting for our guests to jump back on, and then we will continue our special episode here. For people on the podcast, you're not going to see this part right now. So, all right. If you guys have any other questions, like I said, bring them up. I'm getting some questions here, so thank you so much for your submissions. And then I will start posting them up when she comes back on. Okay. So as well as that, guys. Awesome.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. That happens. Don't worry. Like we've all kind of fallen off too. So
anyway, yeah. Cheers.
All right. Yeah. The people on the live stream won't hear this part anyways, so like we're just gonna cut it out. So, okay. But no, everyone. So like we have a few questions here, but before we get to them, I just wanted to show a couple more photos. This is my favorite one. Sweet.
That's my favorite too.
Oh my God! To get it, yeah. I don't know. I love the Muppets, so just to see that photo.
That was Jim Henson's like my idol, so that was a huge, probably like my favorite photo for my whole career. That was huge for me.
Yeah, I'd probably have this one on my wall, all framed and everything, and blown up. So
I should do that. Yeah, I haven't done
that. Actually, yeah, we'll do some questions right now because we have a few people asking here.
Okay.
So Shell says that's so cool.
Thanks.
I'm not sure what Daryl is referring to.
The Muppets, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe. Or wearing the headdress. Like maybe it's just about like the costumes because I think Daryl likes to wear those as well. So
he can relate to it. Your neck, right? It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So this question from Wyatt is, what would your typical workday hours be?
So it depends so much because I did so many different shows over the years. Let's start with Jubilee being like the standard traditional Vegas showgirl show. That was 6:30 to midnight, 6 days a week. And then I used to do cocktailing at the Rio after that, or they call it bevertaining. So from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. I would cocktail, graveyard shift. So that was, the first 3 or 4 years of my life. And then other shows, there'd only be one show a night. So you might only go in for a couple hours. But then also you have to remember we're doing lots of gigs. So you might book a convention for that week and you have to be into the convention at 8 a.m. or even 7 a.m., work a normal day till 5 and then do a show at night. Just a lot of stuff like that. So it's kind of all over the place, but generally speaking, shows in the evening. And then if you work at a nightclub, which I did for several years, those are usually anywhere from 10 to 11 p.m. to like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Awesome. Yeah. So just on that point, how did you deal with injuries? I mean, like, did you have to work hurt? And like, how did you persevere through that?
I was really lucky. Coming from the ballet world, I was actually injured a lot more previously to moving to Vegas because I was doing point work in ballet and I was always injured doing that. Luckily in Vegas, I didn't get injured very much. The times that I was just really fortunate to be able to get back in it. But I will say that when you have a physical job, any sort of discomfort or illness suddenly becomes really unmanageable, or it just sucks a lot more than if you have an office job. I'm sure you guys can relate because you're on your feet too, but like if you're sick, and obviously this is pre-COVID times, if you have a cold or the flu or something, you have to suck it up, and or if you're the only dancer in a show, there's no replacements, there's no understudies. Or I remember my first contract at Jubilee, I had a terrible stomach flu and I went to tell Fluff, who I mentioned earlier, kind of a Vegas legend, that I needed to go home. I was like, I'm really, really sick. And she was like, well, I don't have enough people in the show tonight, so I need you to stay. And you're just, what do you say to a legend like that? And you're like 24 years old and you're just like, but I'm like literally puking in the bathroom. I don't know. So there's just times like that are hard, but I mean, generally speaking, I was really lucky. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's just go back. I just wanted to show this photo as well because there's a few different costumes that you're wearing. So.
Yeah.
I think that's
the one on the left, that's from Jubilee. That's the old Tiller kick line, like a classic Rockette kick line number. The middle one was from a gig at Caesar's Palace. I'm actually standing on a really tall platform, and those costumes are by an incredible woman. Her name is Carrie Byers. And if you ever are in Vegas and need to hire showgirls for any reason, contact Carrie at Premier Showgirls. She's like the go-to woman. She's got all the best costumes and all the best showgirls in town to come work your event. And then the picture on the right is also Jubilee. That was the Titanic scene. And that was when they had these really elaborate costumes that they redid for the show. And then a couple years later, they took them out of the show and they spent like $250,000 on it. So that was funny. But yeah, just some crazy things I've worn.
That is so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, and those things aren't cheap, right? Like a lot of the costumes that you've worn, like how many costume changes do you actually do in a show, like approximately?
Every show's different. Jubilee, I remember at one point I had 13 costumes a show, and you did 2 shows a night, so 26 a night, plus 1,500 stairs, plus, it's a lot, plus makeup, plus, And then other shows, you only have maybe 5 or 6 costume changes. Or if you're working at a nightclub, sometimes you just wear one costume the whole night. Sometimes you change it a bunch of times. It just really depends, but it becomes part of your job. It's part of your routine. You have, in a union show, like Jubilee was, you have union costume dressers that are there, and it's their job to help you, and you're not even allowed to do certain things. They have to unhook certain things because that's their job. And it becomes very routine, and you just get into like a muscle memory pattern of getting something that seems impossible. Suddenly you're able to do it in 30 seconds, and it's like really easy. So that's just your job, you know, changing your shoes, all that.
Wow, that's crazy, honestly. Okay, guys, we're here with Kelly O. She's had a wonderful career in Vegas as an entertainer. Primarily, like she did a lot of shows in Vegas. Some really classic ones. Some awesome shows. So if you guys have any questions about that, make sure you ask them in the comments. So, hello, Michelle. She says, "You know, you've made it when you perform with the Muppets." So that's awesome. Joey says, "Awesome," and Facebook user, well, that's Brett. I see on Facebook there from the group. He says that's pretty sweet. So a lot of love here.
Thanks.
We got a question from Michelle. So she says, you talked a bit about showgirls in general. Where did you find most of them came from? You mentioned being a ballerina. Were there other specific types of dancers?
That's a really good question. There actually are not a lot of ballet dancers that end up being Vegas showgirls. I don't think anymore. Definitely at Jubilee there were, because that was the sort of aesthetic. They wanted the long lines, the long clean lines of a ballet dancer, and sort of the port-de-bras, which means how you carry your arms. So definitely at Jubilee there were a lot of ballet dancers, but that show closed, and nowhere else I've worked had a lot of ballet dancers. In fact, hardly any. I would say most dancers have a traditional background of dance training, which these days in the States looks like competition studios and just normal, you know, jazz, tap, ballet, contemporary, hip hop. They study everything. And there's, you know, some phenomenal dancers in Las Vegas. Amazing. You know, look at Cirque du Soleil or anything. They're just, some of these people are incredible athletes. So yeah, I haven't encountered too many ballet dancers. That was sort of like a very specific niche world for what I was doing. But yeah, the more diverse your background as a dancer pretty much is going to help you no matter what kind of a career you pursue, whether that's Vegas or Broadway or whatever.
Now, you kind of touched on competition. Was there a lot of competition for, you know, the jobs that you were working? Did you see a lot of turnover? That's a really, I'm kind of curious to know, because you know, I don't know how hard it is to actually get into that kind of industry and to audition. I don't know like what your chances are, like how many people are actually in the audition. So could you kind of give us a little more information on that?
Yeah, I get that question asked of me a lot, and I'm honestly not sure how to answer it, because I feel like there was and there wasn't. Like sometimes, and maybe it's just being like thinking, I don't know. Definitely Jubilee would audition tons of people every year, for example, but some years they'd have a hard time finding enough people that were tall enough or that were the right height or to fit in the right costume. And that goes for any show. They might have 50 people show up and only one of them fits the look that they need or the costume that they need filled. So it kind of depends what you mean by competition. Yeah, sure, of course, there's always lots of people that want your job, always. But if you fit the niche of what they're looking for, then you're lucky in that sense. And if you're talented, then you're lucky in that sense. So I always felt, and also this was, my career was about 2009 till about 2019, pretty much. So it was before COVID and things were really, you know, it was sort of the end of the recession and things were doing really well. So I always felt like there was an abundance of work personally. I felt like there was tons of shows and tons of gigs, and I never really felt too threatened by people. I don't know how other people felt about that, but it just seemed like whether I quit a show or, you know, moved on from something, there was always something else to do. So personally for me, it was really fun because it was just like an abundance of jobs one after another. Now, if I were still in Las Vegas today, I'm sure it would feel totally different because everything's closed and there's no work and because of COVID. So I'm sure I would just be clinging on to every single thing that I was offered. But I had a great experience. And also for the most part, this is something I've talked about on my channel with my friends as well, is that we really support each other, or supported each other. There's really great network of like tight knit dancers that enjoy helping each other and saying, hey girl, there's this gig, you'd be perfect for this, or like come to this audition. And, you know, really for the most part, everybody behaves like that. There's not a lot of unkind people. So that's been my experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's cool. I think you get that question just because, like for me, I think it's kind of incredible that you were able to work in the entertainment industry in that capacity. Like, I think it's a tremendous accomplishment. So,
Thanks.
I mean, you know, so like, for advice, so whether it's someone like working towards their dream job, or someone maybe trying to advance in their career, what kind of advice could you give someone that wants to attain a similar level of success?
Wow. I mean, I honestly feel like it was just a lot of luck, but, and being in the right place at the right time. But obviously I think it goes for, like, your relationships are paramount above anything else. You know, your reputation precedes you. As Vegas is a tiny community, the entertainment community is even smaller. People have been turned down for jobs that were amazing because of their reputation. And I'm not saying I've gotten along with everybody over the years. I certainly haven't. But definitely your relationships with people are paramount, and that will always get you more work. And it's basically networking 101, but you want to do it in a genuine way where you're actually friends with people and friendly with people. And I hope that applies to the rest of the world. I don't have a lot of experience with other areas of employment, but I think that pretty much applies.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Well, not just you were doing a few different positions, right? So like, I don't know if we were kind of talked before the show, but you're also like working as a go-go dancer as well, right? Yeah, I think I have some pictures. I really like seeing these pictures because they're so amazing. I really love them. I've got this one here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Sorry. Hopefully, I'm grouping them together properly here. But could you kind of give us where were you working for these ones here?
You nailed it. Yeah, the one on the left is Marquee nightclub.
Oh, sweet.
And the top DJ Mustard, obviously Marquee, if you follow the DJs in Vegas as well. And then obviously, right, Chateau, it says on my like leotard, but Chateau, as you can see, like the Paris balloon in the background that's like under the Eiffel Tower outside, which is, in my opinion, the most ideal location for a nightclub. It was also the most fun nightclub I've ever worked at. Yeah, that was just a really great part of my career, in terms of it was a way to subsidize your income. It was something that was late enough at night that you could do it after your shows or after your gigs or whatever you were doing. And I worked there with all my girlfriends. Like that photo in the yellow leotard, I've known all those girls for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like you get to work with people you're really close with and have known for a really long time. And yeah, you basically party for a living. It's not without its downfalls. Definitely some really uncomfortable costumes and some rude, drunken customers. But for the most part, it's a pretty fun way to make some money.
Yeah. Well, we actually had versions of it here in our city as well. So I actually got to DJ for a couple of them. So I totally understand. And sometimes you can have a pretty bad DJ, and I can completely, like, you know, I've seen it where, like, you know, the go-go dancers aren't really getting into it. And yeah, I don't know, it can definitely be uncomfortable at times. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of today's music. So by the end of my career, I was in my 30s trying to like go dance to the pop music of today, and I was just like, I hate this music so much. It was so hard to like pretend that I liked it, because I'm not into it. But yeah, most people are that dance there. So
yeah. Well, so the shifts that they had, they're usually like half, so like half hour on, half hour off. Was that kind of the same where you were at?
That's how it's done most places. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and a lot of people don't realize like how difficult it is, you know, because like you must be, I don't know, I don't want to say like super tired, but it must get kind of straining when you're just doing that, and And not just like one day, but like if you're doing that over like a whole weekend, I don't know, like if you feel like, you know, like Groundhog Day, do you ever feel that with like the jobs that you were working? Because not just that, like in Jubilee as well, right? Because is it the same position? Like, are you doing the same character every time, or does that ever change?
Yeah, so like when you're talking about a show such as Jubilee or Peep Show or Tournament of Kings or whatever show, unless you're swinging, which means like changing spots, you're doing the exact same track or part or like you said, character or like whatever. You're doing the exact same thing every single day that you're in that show if you're in that show full time. So Jubilee, 3.5 years. I didn't really swing hardly at all in that show. So I was always doing the exact same track. If you got moved, it would be every 6 months. You might get moved in a specific number, but it would be like from the girl on stage right to 2 spots over. It was always pretty much the same. So yeah, that was Groundhog's Day. And also you have to remember you have to bear in mind everything's exactly the same. The path that you take backstage, the way that you change your costumes, the people that you see in the traffic patterns backstage, it's exactly the same every single day. So because of that, even though I was in Jubilee for 3.5 years, my memory is like one long day, and I can't really differentiate what happened when. It's like a blur. And then when it comes to nightclubs and everything and other things, just being tired. Yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize, especially men, we're wearing heels the whole time. So you're wearing, if you're in a show, 2 shows a night, those are heels the whole show. Then you go to a nightclub, you're in heels. Or I was bevertaining for 8 hours in heels, and you're not just wearing them, you're dancing in them. And so yeah, you're really tired. But it's you know, sometimes you get really into it or you're having fun with your friends, and other times you're just like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. I remember towards the end I was doing a yoga training on the weekends. So I'd like work Friday night till 3 in the morning, and then I'd have to be at the yoga training at 8 a.m. It was just like, you know, and you do and whatever else you're doing that week, and the yoga training would go all day. So it's just, yeah, it was really hard, but you just make it work.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, I can tell, like, you hustle, right? Like, I think that you've always, from the stories that I've heard and like all the videos that I've watched, you seem to keep yourself busy all the time. It's just multiple things.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that. Because yeah, I'm a fan of your YouTube channel for sure, and I love I always bring YouTubers onto the show. You know, with similar. Like we have the casino as our connection, as our background, and it's really cool to just hear all these different stories. But sometimes, like, I feel the same way when it comes to like some of the things that you were explaining in some of your videos. I was just like, yeah, I feel that way too, you know, and like burnout and you know, just the whole thing about for me, it's just about like finding yourself, and once you're removed from that, from like, you know, your job and that industry, you know, sometimes you feel a little lost, and it's just like, which way am I going to go? So I don't know, it's cool to kind of talk with someone about that, right? So, and that's why, like, watching your videos, it's just like, oh, this is interesting. People go on there to see you, right? And to see, it's like, well, this is like your process, this is your journey, right? There's a lot of crap that we all have to go through to get to the other side, and even just making a YouTube, you know, just a channel, I really respect a lot of people that do that, because if it was easy, then everyone would be doing this, right? But
yeah. Oh, sorry for the plane noise.
No, that's okay.
It's loud. I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, I think that people don't realize what it's like. Everyone's like, oh, you work in Las Vegas. What is that like? Like, do you live in a casino? They ask the most ridiculous questions. I'm sure you guys have been asked that. But also, I think, like, they don't realize, like, maybe if you work at Disneyland or someplace like that, you can relate, but you're literally around people every single day that are on vacation. You're around people every single day that are on their honeymoon, that are on a stag, that are on a bachelorette, and so there's just this like energy level. Everyone's drunk. Like, it can get really tiring to be like, well, I still have my life problems, and I got to park a speeding ticket on the way here, and I have to go do all these errands. I'm not on vacation. You know what I mean? And I'm stressed or whatever it is. But you're still in this world where you have to pretend like you're having fun like they are, you know, and that can get really tiring, I think.
Oh, wow.
What was the other thing you were talking about?
Oh, just the whole thing, being a fan of your channel and, finding yourself and, it's because
Yeah.
it's been a few years that you've been away from the industry, right? Like from, well, not the industry, but like Jubilee and the
It's
shows.
been 2 years, nah, almost 2 years since I stopped performing in a show,
Yeah.
and 1 year since I left Vegas. Almost. Well, COVID was when my job ended. So yeah, about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's hard. I was ready to be done, but it's been really hard since because I my husband is in the UK Air Force, so we live in an Air Force base in a foreign country that's not the UK, and it's not a US Air Force base. And yeah, it's really hard to find work. I've been thrust into a completely different culture. I think people think I'm a little strange. I think they're like, that's that girl that used to dance topless in Vegas. Like, just kind of like, it's definitely, it's strange. I miss my friends. My friends are crazy and fun, and when all of your friends are performers and they're really outgoing and they're exciting, and that I miss that. But it's also really nice to be out of the city. It's really nice to not have to put on a ton of makeup every day. It's really nice not to have to wear heels. I hang out with my dog all day. Like, that's all really nice. I'm not complaining, but it's definitely been a difficult transition for sure.
Well, we have a few more questions here, so if you're ready. Wyatt wants to ask, have you worked on cruises?
I did. I never did a production show contract, which is what normal cruise ship dancers do. I worked for a show that used to be in Las Vegas called Sin City Comedy, that used to be at Planet Hollywood, which is where Crazy Girls is now, in that same theater. For this awesome guy named John Payton, who's super funny, super smart, talented guy that opened his own comedy club. And his wife, they met working at Fantasy. He was the comedian and she was one of the dancers. And so they decided, let's do a comedy show that has stand-up comedy and burlesque. So I was lucky enough to be hired to be one of their burlesque dancers. And they pitched the show to Celebrity Cruises. And so we got to do the show on Celebrity Cruises, but we would only do 2 weeks at a time. I think the longest one I did was a month contract. So I did get to experience cruise ships in that capacity as a guest entertainer. Yeah, it was cool. It wasn't for me, I don't think, because I hate being restricted. I hate being told what to do. I hate being told, like, you have to be back on the boat at 5, because it's like, well, I want to see the rest of the city. I don't want to get back on the boat, $5 cups of coffee and stuff like that. But it was really cool. I definitely like that. Yeah.
I worked in Celebrity. Actually, I do want to contract there. So yeah, that's hilarious that you mentioned that. Also, for those of you that are listening and watching, you've come to Edmonton once, haven't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy. I have a picture, and let me just post this one up right now. So it's really cool to kind of see this. I put this together as a collage, but you have a lot. There's a lot of really, really cool shots here. So could you kind of give us a little explanation on?
Yeah. Well, the photo on the left, that's just because it was in front of the plaza, and I thought people would
so cool, yeah.
the plaza. But those are just some of my showgirl friends when I was back visiting recently. We've got Skylar Massey, Danny Elizabeth, and Stephanie Bell, who are all in Crazy Girls. And one in the orange, Danny, is one of my closest friends. She's actually the host of Crazy Girls. She's engaged to Murray Sawchuk, who is a really successful magician, and they do all kinds of awesome, fun stuff in Vegas. You might have heard of them. The middle photo is Purple Rain, which was a Prince tribute show that I did for a couple years. Sorry for the plane.
That's okay.
Super loud. That was playing at the Westgate when I was in it. It's now at the Tropicana. I'm not sure if it's reopened since COVID, but that's the show that I toured to Edmonton with. We actually toured a lot. And if you like Prince, I highly recommend that show. And even if you just like live music, they're amazing, amazing musicians. I think when people think of a tribute show, they think something's going to be cheesy, but that show is really, really well done. And it was really fun. Black and white photo is actually from the Weeknd's music video for the song Earned It,
Oh yeah.
which is from the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. So that was back in 2015. And I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know who The Weeknd was when I was asked to do that music video.
Okay.
I don't really, like I said, I don't follow pop music, and he was kind of still up and coming. I mean, he was a big star, but not like he is now. And so they were like, the music videos for The Weeknd, and it's top secret. And I thought it was a band. I didn't know. But that was really cool. That was a great experience. And then bottom right was just a gig for a vodka company. I can't remember the name of the vodka company, but they wanted ballerinas to go do bottle presentations at nightclubs. So we're wearing point shoes, and we had choreography, and we would like bring out a bottle of vodka and then do a ballet for them. That was interesting.
I love the Weeknd story though. That's pretty funny. It's just
I'm
like,
embarrassed, but I mean,
oh no, how are you supposed to know? I mean, like he kind of, yeah. I mean, he's big now, but before, I mean, like a couple of years ago, I didn't even know who he was too. It's like, yeah, it's the Weeknd.
Again, makes
like,
me feel better.
yeah, it is the Weeknd. Jeez, like that's great. Oh, you mean it's a person? Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, back to the questions here. Well, actually, a couple of comments as well. So Joey from the UK says, "Great insight to the other side of the show life. I feel a little bit like the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, peeking behind the curtain. It's kind of cool." Well, that's good.
Thanks, Joey.
Wyatt says, "Miss the coworkers and the culture," and yeah, I think that's a lot of industries for sure. So, okay. Sorry, we have one here from Brett, and he's asking, "What was your biggest struggle balancing your professional life versus your personal life?"
Good question. I guess my professional life became my personal life because my friends were made up pretty much exclusively with people that I worked with. So when I think back on like my personal life in Vegas, it was mostly spending time with people that I worked with or had worked with at different shows or gigs in the past. I can't say. I think people would assume that maybe people judged me for what I did for a living, but I didn't really ever encounter that. And when it came to like dating and stuff, like when I met my husband and I told him what I did, he was just like, cool. Like people didn't really judge me too much for that. I think they thought it was interesting. Yeah, I guess like normal things people do, you know, I'm still kind of trying to adjust to a normal schedule because in Vegas and you work in that industry, probably for you guys, if you're on swing shift, you don't do anything before noon. Like there was no like social engagements before noon because, you know, we stay up late and you sleep late, you know, so that definitely affected things a little bit, but I can't really think of anything other than that.
Yeah. Oh, all good. Yeah. Sorry. Let me just adjust. There you go. Sorry. Wyatt says, "It sounds like the casino industry to me." Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Could you, sorry, I always have like a bunch of questions that are always scrumped up, but you know, here's my question. Could you actually go back and do your performance now, even though it's been a few years? Do you think you could do it?
I don't remember anything, but dancers are really different. I know dancers that literally remember every single piece of choreography that they've done their entire life, even if it was 20 years ago. And I'm the type of person that the second I'm done with a show, I completely forget it.
Okay.
So if you showed me a video of some choreography that I've done, I might go, oh yeah, okay. And I'm sure I could relearn it more quickly. But no, I honestly don't remember.
All good. So, I mean, also to add to that point, is there something you feel that you haven't accomplished in, you know, in that part of your career? Is there something you feel like you haven't done?
Well, I always wanted to work in Europe. And I think it wasn't like something I was dying to do, but like I auditioned for Moulin Rouge a few years ago and I didn't get that. And there's a few other, you know, gigs or shows in Europe that I thought would be fun to try. And now I think, you know, I'm getting older with COVID. I don't think it's really realistic. So I don't know. But yeah, that would have been cool, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever think about doing maybe your own choreography or?
I was not much of a choreographer.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, it's like, I think it'd be comparable to music. Some people are great musicians, but they're not good songwriters. It's kind of like that. And I just never felt that I was good enough at choreography to pursue it. I felt like if you were going to be a choreographer, you should be amazing at it and you should just blow everything. But I'm also a perfectionist, so I never thought I was good enough to pursue choreography. Yeah, no, not really.
Oh, good. But yeah, like, was there a show that maybe you wanted to do that you never got the opportunity to? Or were you content? Were you content, or was there more that you wanted to do in Vegas?
You know what it is? I actually did every show that I wanted to do, but that's not the problem. The problem was that some of the shows that I wanted to do turned out to not be what I thought they were, or turned out like, it's like, you know, a classic story of you set your sights on a goal and you achieve that goal. And then when you finally get there, it's not what you thought and you're actually disappointed. That happened to me quite a few times. And also just being mistreated, like the if you can imagine the egos and the personalities in entertainment, not so much the other dancers. Most other dancers are really great, but when you're working for people that might be the star of the show, you get some interesting behavior, some interesting personality disorders, if you want to put it that way. So I was mistreated quite a bit, especially towards the end of my career, and that was disappointing because they were shows that I really wanted to do, but then it's not worth doing when you're being not treated well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Probably a lot of shady people that probably a lot of people that you felt were trusting and then they're not, and probably a lot of like shadiness going on in that kind of industry.
A lot of narcissism. A lot of, if you know anything about narcissistic personality disorder, so not just narcissism, but specifically that disorder, those types of people flock to the entertainment industry because they need the constant, affirmations of their worth through an outside source. So I found myself literally working for narcissists that would, blow up and have these crazy fits, and they would lie and they would mistreat people, and they, so that was, I think, the hardest thing, something that I think people don't realize. They think everything's so glamorous. And, when I was at Jubilee, that was a corporate job. You're working for a corporation, there's an HR, you have to take sexual harassment training. But most everywhere else I worked, it's a 1099 gig for some random person, so you're not protected, put it that way. And so that was the hardest thing about it. Yeah.
So, okay, we got one more question here from Michelle. She's asking, do we answer this one? I don't think so. From what I understand, dancers' careers are shorter than other professions. Are there some common directions dancers go after they retire from dancing? So kind of ties into what we were talking about here.
Yeah, I'd say most dancers, they go into teaching dance, or they go into the fitness industry, which is something I've dabbled in a little bit, whether it's teaching Pilates or fitness or yoga. And teaching dance obviously is high at the list of things that people end up doing. I can't do either of those things where I live currently because of the restrictions, but that's something that I'm considering doing. Yeah, I'd say some people do go into choreography, like we talked about. Some people go into producing. Yeah, you might find your odd entertainment director on a cruise ship, or cruise director that started out as a dancer, that sort of thing.
All right.
A lot of them have been going into real estate lately, which is interesting. I think
that's cool.
COVID.
A little different, yeah. Go RCF Red Arrows. Thank you. Do you know what that means? Because I don't.
I'm assuming is he from the UK?
Wyatt? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Wyatt, are you from the UK? I was like,
I think it's a reference to the Royal Air Force. Maybe he meant RAF.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, he's not very good with typing, so maybe that's what it was. I'm just kidding. Anyways. Yeah, Wyatt, you can hit me up on that one after. All right, so I just want to show this other picture as well. It's a series here. Hopefully I got these three correct. This is a tie-in to Caesar's Palace.
Yeah. Did it.
You were Cleopatra? Is that true?
Yeah, I was.
Wow, so awesome. So how was that experience?
That was amazing. That was baby Kelly on the left. Like when I first moved to Vegas, one of my first gigs aside from Jubilee was Cleopatra at Caesar's Palace. And that costume is one of Cleo's fancy outfits that she only wears for special occasions. And that's a Bob Mackie costume. So I don't know if anyone here cares about designers, but he's a huge designer, and he did Jubilee costumes as well as the Cleo costumes for Caesars. And these are, I think, maybe 20, 30-year-old costumes that they keep the upkeep on. So it was a tremendous honor to get to do that job. And especially Caesars is like the most iconic and with the most history. So it was really fun. And then in the middle, it's the same gig, but some management things had changed. They'd cut some corners, and they didn't want to trot out the nice costumes anymore. So those are like bag costumes. But you can see that's right in front of the Coliseum at Caesars, and says Brooks and Dunn in the background. So where they have the big concerts. And then on the right, that was go-go dancing at the Caesars pool.
Cool.
They used to have go-go dancers there. So we were meant to look like, Greek or
goddesses
or whatever.
That's pretty awesome. Now, we've gone through so many photos of like these elaborate costumes and really cool. They're just amazing. But where do those go after the shows? Like where are those costumes now? Do you know?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people assume that the dancers own them. We do not, because I've had a lot of people be like, "Can't you just bring your costume and do this?" I'm like, "It's not my costume. I don't own it." So if it's for a show, the show owns the costumes. And a show like Jubilee, who had some of the greatest costumes you'd ever see in a show, they're all in the basement at Bally's, where the dressing rooms used to be for that, or they still are for that theater, for that show. And it's really sad. They said they were going to do something with them or do another Showgirl show, and they never have. Sometimes they trot them out for other gigs. I know J-Lo used some of the fans from Jubilee for, oh, hello, this is my dog.
Oh, what a cutie. Oh my God. What kind of dog is that?
He's some sort of mutt. He's a rescue. Say hello.
Oh.
He's 9 months old.
Oh my God.
His name is Snoopy.
Snoopy.
I haven't been giving him enough attention, so he just jumped up here. Anyway, yeah, so she used the fans from Jubilee. Oh, you okay? Okay. For one of her numbers, and they'll trot them out for gigs and events, but unfortunately I've heard that they don't like take care of them as well as they used to, and they're very fragile and they're very expensive and all that. So yeah. I wish Caesars would do the right thing by them, but they're not. And then if you're doing say go-go dancing or a random gig, you're hired by what's called a production company, and it's usually a one-off thing where you're just wearing it that one day. So you get there, they hand you a costume, it's got a tag with your name on it, you wear it, you take it off and give it to someone, and they wash it, and that's it.
I see. Okay, back to Wyatt. He says, been to many of their shows. Thanks. And it was RAF. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, Brett.
Wyatt might have figured out where I am. I'm trying to be secretive about it, but it is an RAF base, so he probably heard the jets in the background. He figured it out.
Oh, okay. Nice going, Wyatt. Jeez. So Brett asks, if you could guide someone from a fresh start, knowing what you know today in this industry, what advice can you give?
In this industry, meaning Las Vegas, I'm going to assume you mean Las Vegas as opposed to entertainment.
Brett worked in the casino industry as well. So maybe the whole casino industry, because you did a few things, not just like, not just the performing, but like you were also like dancing and just kind of making a career out of whatever the industry provided you. So maybe in that kind of perspective.
Sorry, I need to handle this dog situation. It should just be on the table. I think that, what I said earlier about, your relationships, I think that definitely applies as terms of, I did a video on my channel, advice for dancers. It's really more specifically to dancers and showgirls, but that's definitely your relationships being the most important by far. I think, you kind of have to be a bit ballsy in this industry. And you definitely have to just believe in yourself. You have to, I think I was riddled with self-doubt my whole career. And looking back on it, I'm really surprised at how much I achieved because I didn't think that I could do any of it. And every time I got another show or a gig, I'd always just be like, oh, well, I got another one. I must just be really lucky, you know? But I think that if I had actually been like, no, you deserve this. You're really good at what you do. Like you can do this. I probably would have achieved even more. So I think that's the biggest thing. You know, there's a fine line between being arrogant and being confident. And I think finding that sweet spot of humility and confidence, so you're humble enough to constantly be improving and figuring out what you can improve on, but also confident enough to know that you're really good and keep going. And, you know, don't be discouraged if you don't get something. Don't be discouraged by other people's BS. And just, you know, I think confidence is a huge part of it.
That's awesome. To add to that, Joey has to say, I'm not narcissistic, but if I was, I'd be the best and no one else would come close. Okay, cool.
I get it. I get it.
Oh, man, that's UK humor right there, I'll tell you. All right, so let's go back to the industry, but the pandemic kind of affected everybody, including everybody here like watching. What's your opinion on this? When should I'll say casinos, when should casinos and shows reopen in relation to everything else? Do you think that it's too early or is it too late?
Now we're getting political.
Okay, hiding that question.
No, I'm kidding. I don't mind answering it. I just hope I don't offend anybody with my answer, because
No.
I don't think anything should have ever shut down. And I have a probably different view than most people on that. Yeah, I'm completely in the camp that it's not worth shutting down an economy and people's livelihoods over this. People have the choice to stay home if they need to or they want to. So I think it should have never been shut down. And I think that if you look at the loss of life due to suicide, if you look at the effect that this has had on people, it's truly devastating and sad. Yeah, so I'm against any kind of shutdown at any time, personally.
Okay.
Sorry if I offended anyone.
Oh God, it's your opinion, right? So, and that's the thing.
Yeah, but these days you're not allowed to have an opinion. So.
Well, yeah, I mean that's social media and life and everything. People get mad about the hat that I wear, so I mean, totally understand. No, you know that's everyone is entitled to everyone's opinion. So, like, but you don't. Yeah. What is something that you've applied in your position that you've picked up from your time in the industry? That was my question for you. I wanted to ask it quite a while ago, but is there something like a skill that you've picked up that you kind of use now?
That's a really good question, and I'm sure that there is. That sound is my dog chewing, by the way. Sorry, if anyone's concerned.
It could be me too. Switch in and out. So yeah.
He's just decided right here on the floor is where he's chewing. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I don't know if it's a skill, or what. I guess I would just say that because I've always done strange things, like being a ballet dancer or being a Vegas showgirl is not a normal path for somebody's life, or it's not a normal career path. That bolstered some confidence in me that you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. And that's just been the biggest. I mean, right now I'm not doing anything, so that it doesn't really apply. But I definitely have no interest in doing things that don't excite me, that I'm not passionate about. So yeah, I think it's that idea that you can do and be whatever you want. And it's not just because somebody tells you it's hard doesn't mean you're not gonna be able to do it. And that was growing up studying ballet. Everybody told me, oh, it's impossible. It's impossible to be a ballet dancer. It's so hard. You'll never make it. It's, they make no money. You'll starve to death. It's so impossible. It's not impossible. You can do, just put your mind to it. Just do it. Same thing with being a showgirl. I think that sounds to people like, oh my God, like I could never just move to Vegas, or I could never just, but you know what? You just do it. And you just put one foot in front of the other and do it. And if you're interested in doing something that's, a little different or more exciting to you, then that's what it takes,
Mm-hmm. Nope. Yeah, definitely agree with that. I really love the fact that I'm talking with you, and you got to work. You got to work a traditional show, which is like Jubilee, right? A classic. It's a show that's been there, and unfortunately, like it's it's not there anymore, which kind of sucks for like the new generation. They won't be able to see it. So you also got to work in fantasy, right? And so that's kind of like I don't want to say like a new age, but it's just definitely like a different type of show. So, and during your time, like of all of those eras that you're a part of, I say eras, but the ones that you weren't a part of as well, like which era do you think would be your favorite?
Oh, definitely Jubilee. Definitely old Vegas. I think a lot of us would talk about and joke about like, oh, if we could only go back in time, if I'd only got to Vegas in the 60s, or if I'd only got to Vegas in the 90s, and loved hearing stories about that. Definitely old Vegas, 100%. Vegas today has gotten so much more about celebrities. It was always about celebrities, but now it's like mega celebrities and DJs. And so you're paying $300 to see a celebrity lip syncing. You know what I mean? Or in a giant theater where you can't even get even remotely close to them. I would much prefer to be in a small, intimate theater and see the performers and interact with them. And I prefer live music. I prefer DJs that are deciding live what music they're going to play based off the crowd, that are more, I'm not into this whole like super famous DJ stuff, because I've danced for some of the most famous DJs in the world, and half the time I couldn't tell you who they were. And I was almost always bored. And I was almost always like, why is this person famous? I don't understand. So that's, I was too old of a soul to be in the era of Vegas that I was in at the time I was there. So definitely old Vegas. But in terms of fantasy though, fantasy's I think 20 years old now. It's actually a pretty old show. It changes all the time though, but it's just completely different. There's only like 8 girls in the show, I think. It's a really small stage, or at least it used to be. I heard they moved into the Chris Angel Theater, but yeah, that's just a totally different bag. Yeah,
Okay.
Also fun, but yeah.
Okay, so like the fan in me I also want to ask, who is the nicest celebrity that you've come across?
Wow. I mean, I worked a lot with CeeLo Green, and I know he had some charges against him that were not very good, but he was really, really nice. He was a sweetheart. And I know he wasn't actually, found guilty of anything, so who knows what happened there, but he was really nice. I can't really think. It's people that you wouldn't think. Like I worked with, she's not a huge celebrity, but I worked with Coco, who's Ice-T's wife. I don't know if anyone remembers Ice Loves Coco back in the day. And she was the headliner at Peep Show when I was there. She replaced Holly Madison. And she was just the nicest, most down-to-earth sweetheart who like worked really hard and put her all into every show. And she really wanted to be a good dancer and just worked her butt off. And she was just great. So, yeah, I guess those two.
So, you remember when you said you didn't know The Weeknd? I didn't know who Holly Madison was, and we actually passed by her in a Target parking lot, and my friend was like, "Oh my God, that's Holly Madison! It's Holly Madison!" I'm like, "I'm sorry, who?" And we didn't know, so she had like this pink Ferrari, I think it was a Ferrari. But then like when she was actually at Planet Hollywood, we ended up going back to Planet Hollywood because a whole bunch of my friends were actually staying there, and that Ferrari, I think it was a Ferrari, it was like just outside of the door, and I'm like, ah. And then I like looked up, and then I kind of saw who Holly Madison was, and I'm like, ah. It's like I didn't know. So it was kind of like, I don't see a lot of celebrities. Usually I just see like the back of them like waving and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I don't really get the same opportunities as like everybody else, because like they come in and they get photos of all these like really cool people, but I never get that opportunity. And then like the one time it's just like someone kind of passes by. I wasn't going to take a picture. I was just gonna be like, hey, it's nice to meet you, right? Like if I knew her, it would have been awesome. But yeah, so
yeah. I've never met Holly actually. So that show, Peep Show, she left the show, then Coco came, and then I came, and I think I was the only person in Peep Show that never met Holly Madison. But everyone had nice things to say about her. So
cool.
I don't know.
I met her. Sort of. Anyways, Joey asks, if you wasn't a dancer, what would your ideal job be?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a hard one. I think, well, I don't, man, it would be a performer of some kind. I think I wish that I had learned to play an instrument when I was younger because I love music, and I think that if my mind had kind of been steered in that direction, I could have been a pretty decent musician. Um, I wish I had studied acting, although my experience with actors has, most actors I find unbearably like self-absorbed and just difficult. So I think being in the acting world would have been difficult, but acting would have been cool. I'm a huge stand-up fan, and unfortunately I'm not funny, so I couldn't have been a stand-up comedian, but maybe being involved in that world or like being a producer of stand-up or something. But yeah, it would definitely be something to do with performing still, because I just love performing arts.
Oh, so cool. All right. So he says, cool. That's
Thanks.
cool. Brett asks, how did your parents take the hit of you being a showgirl, obviously before you made it big?
I'm a little confused by the question.
Did they know that that's what you were going to do when you left?
Yeah.
And then how was the reaction? I mean, like, yeah, I can't
like
remember.
the way that it's worded, it says the hit of me being a showgirl as if it's a negative thing. They didn't look at it as a negative thing at all. And then you said, obviously, before I made it big, I don't know if I ever did make it big. I don't think there was any part of my career where, I mean, some people would say Jubilee would be the highlight of my career. That was at the beginning. So I don't really know. But I auditioned for Jubilee in New York. I told my parents about it. I told them what the show was. They were supportive. And then when I told them I was hired as a showgirl, they were supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always been supportive. So,
well, I think that ties back to kind of like the conversation about, you know, like
what is a showgirl?
Well, yeah, how different people kind of react, right? Because you did mention it's just like, oh, that's the person that was like topless. Like, I understand, like, some people have that. I mean, for us in the whole casino industry, we're like, so you get, I don't want to say desensitized, but it's like, it's not like, oh my God, this is like a shocking thing. In some cultures it is, where it's just like, oh wow, this person is like topless. In some other cultures it's not, right? It's just like, this is okay, whatever, right? So
I think it stems from a misunderstanding of what it is. I think, especially Jubilee, like if you want to take fantasy out of it, take all that. But if you've never seen Jubilee, you really don't understand what we're talking about. There's like nothing salacious about it at all. It was very, very tastefully done. It's kind of like if you've seen the Moulin Rouge in Paris, similar idea. It really wasn't even sexy. It was really just very statuesque, and you're like literally like a living statue, right? Now other shows like fantasy, Crazy Girls, whatever, definitely meant to be sexy, but I think, you know, that's another story. So what is a showgirl? I don't even think what a showgirl is something that's that salacious by most cultures. I mean, in Europe it's not really that, you know, taboo to have your top off, especially if you're not. You know, it's interesting to me too, because if you think about it, how many of your favorite actresses or actors have done a scene in a movie where they're nude? And people don't bat an eye about that. They go, oh, well, it's just R-rated. But if a person that isn't famous does it on a stage, now it's really salacious and bad. So yeah, no, my family didn't have an issue with it at all. I understand it's not for everybody. I think it's just, it depends on the person. I mean, it's, you know, I personally wouldn't do certain things. Like I personally wouldn't be a stripper, but that doesn't mean that I think that there's anything wrong with stripping. I think that that's a personal, I think everybody should do what they want with their own body, and that's their choice, you know, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to answer the question.
No, I think you did cover it well. I mean, I work in the casino, right? So it's not for everybody as well, right? Like the whole aspect of like gambling and morals and ethics. And I think that, it's to each their own, basically. So if it's something that you're like interested in, something you want to do, then absolutely. And some people are more accepting than others, right? So that's kind of how society is. And, you know, people are desensitized, people are oversensitive. let's not talk about this because we can talk about this forever.
I mean, I will.
Yeah, I guess, sorry, since we're on this chat, the only thing that I don't like is someone like, taking my opinion and being like, oh, well, this is what he said. He's on my side or I'm against him. It's like, no, please don't do that. Yeah, that's one thing I don't like. The other thing is like, please don't tell me what to do. That's the other thing.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about the COVID situation. I feel like, autonomy over your own personal being, and whether that's what you want to, if you want to wear a mask, if you want to close your business down, if you want to get a vaccine, if you want to be a showgirl, if you want to take your top off, if you want to not do that and cover yourself from head to toe, I think it's all a personal choice. And I think the second you start taking those choices away from people, it becomes really sketchy, but that's probably more than I should say.
All good. Brett says, my bad. Brett, you're a genuine guy. Like, he's been in the industry and he's gone through a lot. And I know he's not trying to be offensive or anything like that. I think it's
I'm not offended, but I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, there you go. No, he is awesome. He's done he's accomplished a lot when he was in the industry as well. So, yeah, you know what? If I really enjoy, this discussion, and we talk about like your career and everything, and I think it's great. I mean, even if you don't like go back, I don't know if you're going to go back. If it's your choice, I think that you've accomplished a lot, right? And I think that no matter what kind of path you choose, I think you'll be successful. I think you have like the work ethic and whatnot. I really, really, and I don't want to put you on the spot here. We may have to just end the broadcast, and I'll still talk to you after about this, but I really think that you should kind of continue on with the YouTube channel. For those of the people that don't know, like, what's your YouTube channel about, and what kind of brought you to the point of actually creating this content?
Well, it's been so long since I posted. I feel so terribly guilty. Okay, so my YouTube channel was meant to be about my life in Vegas, but I didn't end up starting it until not that long before COVID happened. And so then when COVID hit, I found myself with all this free time to work on it, which I did. But then I found myself also not in the industry anymore. And then my husband and I moved away from Las Vegas. So I was really removed from the industry. But the channel is about my career in Las Vegas. I also have a series where I focus on interviews with other people in the industry who are primarily my friends. And I just, want them to share their stories, because I'm not the end all be all, showgirl experience person. Like, my experience could be completely different from someone else's. So my idea was to talk to other people that worked in the entertainment industry and what their experience was. And also just to give advice for other aspiring performers or aspiring showgirls. But yeah, it's hard because since I've left, I don't feel passionate about it anymore. I have tremendous gratitude for what I've done and for what I've accomplished and for where it brought me in life, but it doesn't align anymore with who I am now. Like, I feel like I'm a completely different person than I was even 2 years ago. So that's where I've kind of struggled with the YouTube channel. Is I felt like if I continued to create that content, I don't know if I would be being disingenuous, because I'm not really excited about Vegas stuff anymore. But I have, there are some other videos that I had wanted to do that maybe I should have done, but thanks for the encouragement and the kind words. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, when I say, I mean, the career is one thing, and I'm like by myself, like I worked, like over 20 years in this industry, and I loved it, and it's amazing. And I can always look back to it, and I can always talk about stories that, will relate to anybody that I'm talking to. Like with you, I can, the fact that you actually came to Edmonton was like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, I didn't even know that you were there or here. So, I mean, it's the things that kind of tie it together that make it awesome, but it's not really like the position. I mean, it's part of you, and I understand that, but I think it's like you as a person. I think that's like the cool thing about having a YouTube channel. Like, it's just like, how are you progressing after your career? Like, I'm after my career. I mean, if I do go back, it's like once a month, and a lot of people don't even know that I still work in the industry, right? I love bringing in my friends because they have these amazing stories as well. So that's something that's always going to be constant on my channel. And to like bring someone like you who's like, we never worked together, but I mean, we're tied by the casino. I think that's pretty awesome. and to kind of share like your story with like the people that I got to work with. Like they never got the opportunity to see you perform. They never got the opportunity to actually work with you. My friends in Vegas that are working there right now, they never got the opportunity to like hang out with you, even though you guys were in the same city. I think that's the cool thing about having a channel, you know. And also just like what are you doing now, like moving forward? And I think, sorry, one more thing. I don't know why I'm like this when I talk with YouTubers, but it's just like the whole creation of your channel and the product and everything. You can do a video on just like, this is how I set up my own videos, you know, and I think people love that so much. So.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you say that and you talk about your interest in YouTubers. I kind of agree with you that I think YouTube is a fascinating platform and idea, and I think that's what drew me to it. The concept that you could do whatever you wanted. Well, you used to be able to before all the censorship, and you know, you could create your own thing. I think that's what really drew me to it. But now, yeah, I just am really struggling with not feeling tied or inspired by Las Vegas anymore. And so I would hate to completely change my channel into a completely different topic, and then all my viewers would be like, well, I came here for the Vegas stuff. Why are you talking about yoga or whatever else, you know? So that's kind of been my struggle and trying to decide what it is that I want to talk about. In terms of what I'm doing now, so as I mentioned, my husband is in the RAF. Go Red Arrows. He's not a Red Arrow. And so I moved to an Air Force base with him in a foreign country that's not the UK. And it's been really hard. You know, I did rescue a dog, which was the best thing I could have done. But I had intended to teach yoga here and to teach some dance classes and kind of get into that. But it's been incredibly restrictive. And there's another lockdown starting tomorrow, but up until then, you could only have 5 people in your class. And to me, I'm just like, I'm really not interested in engaging in these ridiculous lockdowns and restrictions. I want to be able to have a full class of people. I want to be able to invite everyone. I don't want to have to wear a mask. So that's just been really hard for me. I don't really want to get involved until I feel like I have the freedom to do so fully. And then apart from that, even if I wanted to get a normal job, I couldn't really do that. So yeah, I've been looking if there's any other performing jobs or little gigs I could take, but there just really isn't anything because of COVID. So yeah, I'm not doing anything right now. That's the truth. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit. I wish I had a kick-ass idea for a YouTube channel, but I don't. And I appreciate your kind words about the one that I have.
We'll talk. Okay. Well, I have so much to say. Oh my God. But,
okay. Thank you.
You know, let's we can finish off. Are there any a couple comments here? Wyatt wants to say thank you. He has to drop off. So also Brett says, you're amazing, someone that can air a life and share. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, let me hide that. Any final comments, any shout outs that you'd like to give before we kind of jump offline? Yeah, you.
Shout out to my husband, because he'd be making the money, since I don't have a job. Just kidding. You can check out my YouTube channel, even though I haven't been posting. It's just called Kelly O, and there's lots of Vegas content and interviews with other performers if you're interested in that. But I honestly can't tell you what I will be doing with that channel going forward. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram is probably the best way to find me. It's callme_Kelly_O. Send me a DM if you have questions about Vegas stuff, or sometimes people want to know like how they can get started as a dancer or showgirl. Like, I'm happy to help you. So you can do that too.
Awesome. You also have a Twitter account and Facebook?
I'm going to cancel my Twitter. I'm not done with Twitter.
So don't follow her on Twitter because she's not going to be there. And I'll put the links for your YouTube channel and Instagram into the description as well, so people can kind of follow up and ask you questions and say hello. And make sure you subscribe to her channel, because following your journey is pretty cool. I love, you know what, you had one with your husband and you guys were kind of talking. It was hilarious just because.
Oh, did you like that?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him because he's too shy to get into my, you're Snoopy again. Hello. He doesn't want to be in my videos, and I think he's great. So thank you. I'll tell him you said that.
Yeah, well, he's like my wife, because she's just in for my vlogs and whatnot. So she just jumps in and out every now and then. But
Yeah.
Okay, so just before we finish off, I just want to say, Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your, for spending time here on the channel, for being our special guest for April. And
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Hopefully, if you're up to it, we'd like to maybe have you in for just for fun blackjack challenge. I don't know if you want to try that out. And
yeah, I don't know what that entails, but sure.
Good. That's exactly how.
Is that all that's required?
We'll do most of the work, and then you can just kind of hang out, and we can definitely talk some more and kind of share some more stories. So, okay. Any final comments? Oh, here we go. Awesome video. Thanks. You two stay well. You too as well, Joey. And yes, thank you. Okay, I think that's from Brad. So, all right, let me set this up and my outro. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any other additional questions, I'll put the social media for Kelly on. All right, Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a great afternoon. Just stay online, and then we'll kind of talk some more.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.